Have you ever sat in your favorite chair, coffee in hand, the house still and quiet, and realized there's no one left to call? No best friend to laugh with about the silly dream you had. No one just checking in to see how you're really doing? It's not the kind of silence you get used to. It's the kind that settles in your heart. And the older we get, the heavier that silence can feel. This video is for you. If you've ever looked around and wondered how you ended up alone, if you felt invisible, forgotten, or like everyone else moved on without you, I want you to know you're not the only one. And more importantly, you're not broken. Let's talk about a truth we don't often say out loud. Growing older can come with a kind of quiet grief, especially when the friendships we once held close slowly fade away. Take Roger, for example. He's 74 now. After retiring from his job as a mail carrier, he looked forward to mornings with no alarm clocks and long, peaceful afternoons with his books and his dog. But within a few months, the stillness stopped feeling like peace. It started to feel like a void. His wife passed a few years back, his children live in other states, and the friends he used to grab lunch with? One moved away, one passed, and the rest, well, they just kind of drifted. He told me something I'll never forget. He said, "It's strange. I spent my whole life surrounded by people. Now, I hear more from telemarketers than friends." And sadly, his story isn't unusual. Because while we prepare older adults for the physical changes that come with aging, the slower steps, the new medications, the doctor appointments, almost no one prepares us for the emotional shift. The one where the friendships we've counted on start to disappear. And it doesn't happen all at once. It's not like one day everyone just leaves. It happens gradually, in small, almost invisible ways. The neighbor you used to chat with every morning moves away. Your bridge group shrinks. Phone calls get less frequent. You go from being invited to dinner to just hearing about it later. Slowly, what used to be a vibrant circle of connection becomes a quiet island. And in that quiet, something else creeps in, loneliness. Not the kind that shouts. The kind that whispers. The kind that shows up in the middle of the night when you wake up and realize there's no one to call. It's a kind that makes you wonder if anyone would notice if you stopped reaching out. For many older people, this isn't just sad, it's painful. It's confusing. Because no one told us that part of aging might include grieving people who are still alive but no longer close. Roger's story is just one, but maybe it echoes something inside of you. Maybe you thought retirement would be restful, but instead it feels a little empty. Maybe your home is full of memories, but not laughter. Maybe you've been told you're lucky you have your health, but you still feel a heaviness no one else seems to see. That's the quiet tragedy. It's not just the absence of plans. It's the absence of people, of voices that know your story, of someone who remembers what you looked like with dark hair, or who still laughs at that one inside joke from 20 years ago. And yet, society rarely acknowledges this kind of loss, especially for older people, especially for those of us who've done everything right, raised kids, worked hard, volunteered, stayed active. There's this cultural script that says we should be content, that family visits, hobbies, and a few holiday cards should be enough. But those things, while wonderful, are not substitutes for deep, meaningful friendship. The kind that makes you feel alive. The kind that sees you not just as a parent or grandparent, but as a whole person. Worse still, there's a myth that after a certain age, people just don't need close friendships anymore. As if emotional connection expires once you get your Medicare card. But that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, study after study proves that strong social ties in later life are linked to better physical health, lower blood pressure, better memory, even a longer lifespan. But beyond the science, there's something even more important. Friendships remind us that we matter, that we're not just here, we're seen, we're valued, we're needed. And when we lose that, everything else starts to feel heavier. Health challenges feel harder. Small daily struggles start to feel like mountains. Even things like cooking a meal or taking a walk feel pointless when there's no one to share it with. Roger once said, "Sometimes I wonder if I disappeared. How long would it take for anyone to notice?" And let me tell you, that question breaks my heart. Because no one should feel that way. Not at any age. The truth is, when emotional connection fades, it takes a piece of us with it. And sadly, many older people start to believe that the loneliness they feel is somehow their fault. That maybe they didn't do enough to stay in touch. That maybe they're just too old to be interesting. But I want you to hear this clearly. It's not your fault. This isn't a personal failure. It's a cultural oversight. We've built a world that tells older people to be grateful just to keep busy and not complain. But busyness isn't the same as connection. That's why this conversation matters. Because staying silent about loneliness helps no one. We need to say it out loud. I miss having someone to talk to. And that doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And here's the most hopeful part. It's not too late. It's never too late to rebuild, to reconnect, to rediscover what it feels like to be seen again. Next, we're going to talk about something even more urgent, how loneliness doesn't just affect the heart, but the body and mind too. Because this quiet emotional pain can become a silent health risk if we're not careful. But don't worry, there's a way through. And you're not walking it alone. We often think of loneliness as something sad, maybe even a little embarrassing to admit, but harmless. A phase. Just part of getting older. But what if I told you that loneliness, especially as we age, isn't just an emotional ache, it's a real health risk. One that can quietly and powerfully harm both the mind and body. Let's go back to Roger for a moment. After about 6 months of retirement, something started to shift, not just in his mood, but in his energy. He started waking up later, dragging his feet through the day. He forgot his neighbor's name mid-conversation. He skipped meals, not because he wasn't hungry, but because cooking for one just felt pointless. His doctor gave him a clean bill of physical health. His heart was strong. His blood pressure was fine. But emotionally, he was unraveling. Slowly, silently, but steadily. And what happened to Roger isn't rare, it's biological. The human brain is wired for connection. We are social creatures, even the quiet ones among us. We're built to thrive in relationships. And when those relationships disappear, it's not just sad. It becomes dangerous. The National Institute on Aging, along with other research bodies, has found that prolonged loneliness increases inflammation in the body. It weakens the immune system. It dulls cognitive sharpness. And over time, it raises the risk of serious conditions like heart disease, depression, and even dementia. Let that sink in. Feeling isolated can be just as harmful as smoking or struggling with obesity. But unlike those risks, loneliness doesn't show up on a blood test. It shows up in the small, daily cracks in our spirit, in the lack of motivation to get dressed, in forgetting where we left the keys, in the endless loop of TV shows that play more for noise than for joy. You might not even notice it at first. It begins with small changes. You cancel a lunch plan because you're too tired. You stop attending that weekly class you used to love. You start telling yourself it's just easier to stay home. And soon enough, the days blur together, and so does your sense of self. But here's the truth that matters. This isn't happening because you're getting old. It's happening because you have an unmet emotional need. A very real, very human need for connection. And let's be clear, it doesn't mean you need a room full of friends or an overflowing social calendar. Sometimes, all it takes is one person, one good friend, one honest conversation over coffee, one check-in phone call where someone asks, "How are you really?" and means it. Because emotional connection isn't about quantity. It's about quality. It's not about performing or pleasing others. It's about being seen, known, and accepted exactly as you are. But here's the problem. We live in a culture that tends to dismiss emotional needs as we get older. People tell us to stay busy, join a club, keep ourselves occupied. But they rarely tell us to stay emotionally open. They rarely ask, who do you talk to when you're sad, or who reminds you that you're not alone? You can go on a walk every morning. You can keep your house spotless. You can volunteer every Tuesday at the library and still feel like no one truly knows you. Because loneliness isn't cured by movement alone. It's healed through meaningful exchange, through mutual care, through that moment when someone looks you in the eye and says, "I see you, I hear you, and I'm glad you're here." That's what real connection is. And that's what so many older adults are quietly missing. But here's the good news, and it's really good news. Once you recognize that this feeling, this ache inside you, is not your fault, you can finally stop blaming yourself. You can stop carrying the guilt of, I should have stayed in touch, or maybe I'm just not interesting anymore. Loneliness is not a flaw in your personality. It's not a sign that you're unlovable. It's a signal, a sign that your emotional world needs attention, just like your physical health does. And once you see it that way, once you accept that this need for connection is both normal and necessary, you begin to take back your power. You open the door to real healing. Not by pretending the loneliness isn't there, but by gently, bravely facing it and asking, what can I do today to feel more alive? Because that's where the shift begins. Not with some huge, dramatic life change, but with small, intentional moments. Saying yes to one invitation, reaching out to one old friend, smiling at the person next to you in the checkout line. Those moments might feel tiny, but they're not. They're the start of something bigger, something hopeful. In the next part, we're going to talk about why friendships fade after 60. Not just how they disappear, but why. And more importantly, what you can actually do right now to start building connection back into your life. Because this isn't the end of your story. It's just a new chapter. One that you still have the power to write, and maybe, just maybe, it'll be your most meaningful one yet. So now we understand something important. Loneliness isn't just emotional, it's physical. It's not just painful, it's real. But that brings us to a deeper question. Why does this happen in the first place? Why do so many older adults, people who once had friends, coworkers, neighbors, vibrant conversations, and warm laughter, why do they suddenly find themselves sitting in silence? It's not just aging, it's transition. See, life after 60 is filled with shifts that nobody really warns us about. They sound harmless enough on paper: retirement, relocation, downsizing, kids moving out, even the loss of a spouse. But these aren't just personal changes. They are what I call social earthquakes. They shake the foundation of our daily human contact. Think about it. When we're working, social interaction is built in. You have coworkers to greet in the morning, people to chat with by the coffee machine, even those weekly meetings that, let's be honest, weren't always exciting, but they still connected you to others. Then retirement comes, and all that structure vanishes. Suddenly, no one expects to see you every day. No one checks in. No one notices if you don't show up. The same thing happens when adult children move away. You're happy they're building their own lives. Of course you are. But the house gets quieter. Birthdays feel smaller. Holidays carry a little ache underneath the joy. And then there's the big one, when you lose someone close. A spouse, a sibling, a lifelong friend. It doesn't just break your heart. It breaks your rhythm. The way you used to move through your week. The person you used to talk to about that show you both loved, or that ache in your knee, or that silly dream you had. They're not there anymore. And sometimes, even if they are, the connection just isn't the same. Let me tell you about Margaret. She's 69 now, a former school librarian, loved by her community, always surrounded by students and fellow teachers. When she retired, she was excited. She thought she'd finally have time to write, garden, maybe travel a bit. But 3 months in, she realized something had shifted. She told me, I thought I wanted peace and quiet. What I got was just quiet. Her husband still lives with her, but their conversations have grown shorter over the years. Her daughter lives across the country, and the friends she used to see at school events or weekend brunches, they're still around, but not as often. Everyone's busy. Everyone's moved on. And the hardest part? You don't even notice the loneliness at first. It creeps in. It's subtle. You go a day without talking to anyone, then a week. You scroll through your phone and see names you haven't dialed in years, and wonder if they'd even want to hear from you now. And then comes the most dangerous thought. Maybe it's just too late. But I'm here to tell you, it's not. It is absolutely not too late to build connection again. But, and this is important, it's not going to happen the same way it did when you were younger. You won't just stumble into new friendships like you did in school, or at the office, or at your kid's soccer game. Friendship after 60 takes something different. It takes intention. And yes, it takes courage. When we're young, friendship is built on proximity. We become close to people because we see them often at school, work, in the neighborhood. But when we're older, we have to go out and find connection. We have to create the space for it. And that means being willing to be new at something again, to feel awkward, to introduce yourself, to take that deep breath and say, "Mind if I join you?" Is it scary? Of course. No one likes to feel vulnerable. But I want you to imagine something for a moment. Think of every vibrant walking group, every cheerful potluck, every library book club filled with friendly conversation. Each one of those started because one person decided to show up. One person said, "I'll go, even if I don't know anyone." One person said, "I'm lonely, but I'm not giving up." One person took the risk and found community. And that person could be you. Start small. You don't need to become a social butterfly overnight. Just take one step this week. Say yes to one invitation. Visit your community center or library. Join a virtual group if it's easier. Or send a simple message to someone you used to talk to. "Hi, I was just thinking about you. How have you been?" That message might open a door. That one hello might change the shape of your whole week. Margaret eventually found her way to a weekly memoir writing group at her local library. At first, she felt silly, worried that no one would care about her stories, or that she'd be the oldest one in the room. But she went. And to her surprise, most of the group was just like her. Women in their late 60s and early 70s, each one carrying stories and scars and laughter. Over time, those strangers became companions. Some of them even dear friends. She told me, "It didn't fix everything, but it gave me something to look forward to. And I remembered what it felt like to be known again." That's the power of one step. Because the truth is, loneliness feeds on silence. It feeds on staying hidden. But connection? Connection grows when you let yourself be seen again. It grows in those small, ordinary moments, when you show up, when you share, when you listen, when you laugh, even if your voice shakes a little at first. In the next part, we're going to explore something that might surprise you, the truth about starting over. Because even if you don't find new friends, even if your circle stays small, joy is still possible. And peace is still yours to claim. You don't have to be surrounded to be fulfilled. You just have to be open to a new kind of happiness. We've talked about the pain of disappearing friendships, the quiet dangers of loneliness, and the brave steps you can take to start again. But there's still one lingering fear we need to face together. It's the voice that whispers late at night. What's the point? I'm too old to make new friends. Let me stop you right there. That voice, that's not your truth. That's society's lie. And it's one we're going to dismantle today. You see, one of the most damaging myths about aging is that we lose our capacity or our desire for new relationships. But the truth is, many older adults, especially those in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, report feeling more emotionally available, more self-aware, and more ready than ever for meaningful connection. Why? Because they've lived, they've lost, and through it all, they've learned what really matters. Older adults don't need surface-level small talk. You're not chasing popularity. What you want, what you deserve, is depth, trust, and truth. And that's exactly what later life can offer you, if you let it. Take Gloria. She's 72, divorced for over a decade, and for the longest time, she felt like friendship had passed her by. Everyone seemed busy with their families, their grandkids, their routines. But then, one day, she walked into a painting class at her community center. Not because she was a great artist, she wasn't. She just wanted to try something new. She almost didn't go. She said she felt silly, out of place. But she stayed. And in that class, she met two women her age. Over time, they painted side by side. Then they had coffee. Then lunch. Now every Wednesday, the three of them meet, not just to paint, but to laugh, to cry, to hold space for one another. It didn't happen overnight. But it happened. Because Gloria showed up. And maybe you will too. But even if you don't, or even if you try and it doesn't work out the way you hoped, I want you to hear something that might change the way you look at this chapter of your life. You can be happy alone. Yes, friendships are powerful. Yes, human connection heals. But happiness, especially in later life, doesn't have just one definition. There's more than one way to feel whole. And for some people, true peace comes not from being surrounded, but from coming home to yourself. Let's talk about that. There are women and men right now, in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, who are living deeply joyful, peaceful lives, without a wide circle of friends. Some of them are solitary by nature. Others have tried and struggled to make new connections. But they found something profound in solitude. They garden. They walk slowly through their neighborhoods, watching the seasons change. They read novels that stir the soul. They pray. They write poetry. They listen to music from their youth and let the memories flood in. And in those quiet moments, they're not lonely. They're alive. That's the difference between isolation and solitude. One leaves you feeling forgotten. The other allows you to remember yourself. Because self-connection, learning how to truly enjoy your own company, is just as valuable as any friendship. It takes practice, but it's not only possible, it's powerful. You begin to choose presence over pressure, peace over performance, and joy not from others, but from within. Maybe you spend mornings making a perfect cup of tea. Maybe you sit outside at dusk, feeling the air shift and the sky change. Maybe you pick up a forgotten hobby or write letters to yourself in a journal. These moments aren't small. They are sacred. But even in solitude, something beautiful can still happen. You stay open to tiny connections. The kind that don't require best friends or deep ties, but still remind you that you belong in this world. A smile exchanged at the grocery store. A short chat with a neighbor while walking your dog. A handwritten card sent to someone from your past, even if you never hear back. These tiny touch points may not feel like much, but they are anchors. Gentle reminders that you are part of something bigger. Because here's the truth. No matter how quiet your life is, you are never truly alone. You are part of a human story. You are seen. You are needed. And you still matter. So if you're watching this and thinking, but what if I've missed my chance? Let me tell you, you haven't. You are living in your chance. Right now. This moment. This breath. This decision to reflect and feel, and maybe, just maybe, reach for something more. Ask yourself, what would make me feel more connected today? Not years from now. Today. Is it a phone call? A walk? A journal entry? Is it joining that club you've been thinking about for months? Or is it simply saying out loud, I'm ready to feel something again? That's your compass. Follow it. And please, don't let the world tell you that aging means fading. It doesn't. Aging means you've survived. You've transformed. You've grown. And now, you have the power to shape your joy, your rhythm, your definition of what a full life looks like. So whether you're building new friendships, reconnecting with old ones, or learning how to find peace in your own company, know this. Your happiness is still yours to create. It has no expiration date. And neither do you. If this message touched your heart, I hope you'll leave a comment. Share what brings you joy these days. Tell us what part of your life you're reclaiming. Because your story, yes, yours, might be the one that helps someone else feel seen again. You're not invisible. You're invaluable. And your next chapter? It's still unwritten. Let's write it well together.